Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Journeys. The gentleman next to me is Mr. Mark Khan. Mark, good evening and welcome to CWS Journeys.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I like your voice sounds rich, Mark. This is good. I just grabbed something from your bio. Ingenious, passionate, and multi-talented designer with expertise in physical exhibitions, corporate graphics, and 3D design, honed through 28 years of extensive experience in exhibit, event design field. Proven innovator and creative manager with skills in design, project management, and related event work coordination. Recognized for creative ability and consistent attention to detail all throughout project phases, including design and implementation. Mark, what is the closest anyone has ever gotten to describing who you are?
Boy, I don't think I've ever had the opportunity for someone to describe who I am. I don't know.
You know, I like
Maybe
to.
my mother
Uh huh.
thought I was a genius.
Your mom.
Yep.
Is she still alive?
No, she passed away quite a few years ago. So did
Wow.
my dad.
Wow. What was it like? What is your fondest memory of her growing up?
Oh my goodness. You know, I remember coming home when we lived in Brooklyn. This is when we moved from Guyana,
Uh
and she'd be coming home in the afternoon from school, and she would be sunning in the backyard, and she was, like a really white Portuguese, so she couldn't stay in the sun too long.
huh.
But we'd sit there and we'd have these beautiful conversations,
Mhm.
and she always had these little tidbits. She'd always say, "Remember, my boy, it's better to give." All these. She always kept prodding me with these little um, sayings and affirmations, and just good things to to keep me straight, I guess,
Mhm.
because I admired her, and whatever she said, I did.
And your dad. What is your fondest memory of him?
My fondest memory of my dad. Wow, that's a good one. He was so busy working
Mhm.
that we didn't get to make too many memories.
Right.
But we watch TV together, watch movies, and he was a laugher. And and if you sat next to him like during like a Benny Hill show, he would grab you and he'd be laughing so hysterically, and he'd start shaking you, with this laughter, and then you start laughing too. It just the idea that your dad was so silly and funny, it was a joy.
I understand that you left Guyana when you were 10, but
Yeah.
before we come to that point of your life, what was it like growing up in Guyana at just before you left at age 9?
Well, growing up in Guyana was, as far as I remember, and I don't have a very great memory, but I remember those first like 10 years
Hmm.
in Guyana as just being, I don't know, maybe glorious, because I was just so free, and the land was just open, and the trenches ran through everything with the fish and snakes and lizards, and we had the beach 2 blocks away, and we would go fishing, and it was just, other than school, which I never really liked because you got beaten. Um, it was glorious. It was like an ideal Tom Sawyer childhood. That's how I think I'd.
What do you miss most about that time?
What do I miss most about that time? I don't know. I think the innocence.
Yes.
There's an innocence that you looked at everybody the same. There was no judgment on anyone. Everybody was Guyanese. When I look back, when we moved to the United States, then I started seeing differences in people, and then I started like. Well, I didn't know I had to behave like this, or I didn't know I had to do that. It was a whole different world that we came to. One that was, focused on more separation.
Mhm.
It seemed at the time,
Was that
because I moved to basically a white neighborhood as an Indian-looking boy with an accent. So it took a little while, but then I got into things and I started, you
quite
know,
quite a culture shock, huh?
oh, quite, yeah, quite,
Um, Designer, creative person.
Yes.
What was your first introduction to designing?
My first introduction
Design.
to design, um, from I was always fascinated, even as a child in Guyana, building things. When we moved to the States and we moved to Brooklyn, I built our kitchen table. I built our shed. Whatever I could try to design and build, even at the age of 13, 14, 15, I was doing it. It was just a natural for me to want to build something or to create something. So I've had that all my life, I think.
Did you have a favorite tool?
A favorite, I'm sorry.
Tool. Did you have a favorite tool at the time?
A favorite food? Oh,
Tool,
my
tool,
all-time
not
favorite.
food, not food, tool.
Oh, tool.
Yes, tool. Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of satisfaction in using a wood plane, planing wood. And
Ah, why is
I think
that?
that probably was my favorite tool.
Okay. And I want to ask you something else about your mom, your parents. If you were to eavesdrop your parents telling a stranger or describing you to a stranger, what do you think mom would say? And then tell me what you think your dad would say.
I think they both thought that I was a good person.
Hmm.
I looked out for everybody else. I was kind. I was generous as a child, and I
Right.
still am. I'm emulating my parents. So that's their
Yeah.
branding on me. I think one day my dad, because we took the subway from Brooklyn to New York, he sat in the subway and he was telling the story. He says, "Wow, I saw this lovely young man, and he gave his seat up to this old woman, and he looked like such a fine little, a fine kid." Um, and then he paused and he said, "Then I looked again and I realized it was Mark. It was my own son." So he saw this kid in the subway and he admired and I felt so good about that. That my father would observe me in such a way and catch me being kind of generous to someone else,
so,
just by
so
giving up my seat. It wasn't a big deal.
did you know
He
at
thought
an
it was a
early age, did you know at an early age that you would want to do designs, or when did this really happen for you? What was the trigger that made you realize this is something I want to do?
You're coming in a little clouded.
I apologize for that, Mark.
That's okay.
Let's see if we can fix this. I don't
Okay,
want you to have any problem hearing me. All right. Is this better?
that's a little better. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So what I asked you is, when did you realize that design is what you really want to do?
I honestly didn't. I didn't know in high school in 12th grade. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I went to the counselor, and he said, "Well, what do you like to do?" I said, "Oh, well, I like to build things.
Hmm.
I like to make stuff." And he said, "Well, you know what you should be? You should be an industrial designer." I said, "Okay." And he said, "These are the schools you should go to." He said he wrote down Pratt Institute and Cooper Union, both in New York City, and I applied to both. I wanted to go to Pratt because Pratt had a campus, and I wanted to go to a college with a campus. So I got into Pratt, and before that, I had no idea what I wanted to be. I just followed his advice
Hmm.
very innocently, and it turned out to be exactly what I wanted, what I needed.
That's amazing. That really is. Do you remember the first thing you designed? And
The first thing I designed.
yeah,
Uh, oh my goodness.
I know you've done so many, but
Boy, you've got some beautiful questions. I like it. Because you're jogging my memory. The first thing I designed, I think it was our breakfast table
aha,
because I asked my parents to give me a shot at it, and I there was no computers at the time, right? So I just kind of made sketches, and I didn't even know how to sketch, but I just built it, and it worked out fine. So
wow.
that was probably the first thing. I think at the age of about 15, 16.
Well, I'm curious about this because it is said that when we have certain gifts, there's somebody up our ancestral line that might have exhibit these kinds of skills and gifts and so on. But was there anybody in your life that did carpentry designs, worked with their hands that you know of?
Um, no, not really.
Wow,
No.
that's interesting. So I am what does Silverbait Design Inc. specialize in?
Well, we I started out as an exhibit designer.
Uh-huh.
And you know, exhibit design. When you go to the Javits Center in New York City and you see all the car shows and all the electronic shows, I'm the guy that designs all that. I'm the guy that takes all the information from a client, corporate client, let's say like Canon, which I worked for years.
Mm-hmm.
I would understand their product offerings. Um, I would understand the corporate history, the corporate philosophy, the corporate branding, and then I would create an architectural structure, usually a very large one, maybe 100 feet by 90 feet, you know, that included all their product offerings. So I would have to design architecture to present all the products. I'd have to work with a lighting designer. Then, of course, the back end of it is all the conference rooms, and you'd have to go on endless meetings, figuring out who gets what conference room, who gets the larger conference room, you know, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing that I've been doing for the past, I don't know, 25, 30 years. And then Silverbait still does that, but I'm trying to, after 30 years in the same field,
Yeah.
you kind of want to change, you know, you kind of want to do something else now. Because I've done the largest exhibits that are possible.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the highest end corporate clients. So it's, you know, I've done as much as I can do in that field. And then it starts getting a little repetitive.
Yes, you have worked with Canon, right? And you've done some work with Canon.
Canon, Sony, Nikon, NEC, Samsung, you name it. All those corporate giants I've designed.
Do you remember your first big name client and what it felt like and how you got involved with them?
I think it was Canon. It was Canon through an exhibit shop.
Uh-huh.
And I was I couldn't believe it. I was, you know, they want me to design that for them. They want me. It took a little while to sink in, but then, you know, then you just do it. You just okay, you know, a little nervous. I'm very, very nervous in meetings.
Yes.
You know, I was panicking in meetings because it was also new, and these people were also big and grand, and you know, the big corporate headquarters, and here I am, you know, pulling up in my little Volkswagen Rabbit with my architectural model, coming to show Canon my stuff.
You know, I like to ask these questions of people who, you know, have accomplished a lot and in spite of the odds, especially for our young listeners. So when you're in one of these meetings with some of these high rollers,
I'm sorry, Sylvan, you're breaking up again. I'm sorry.
When you're in one of these meetings with some of those high-end clients, is this
Right.
better? Sorry about that, Mark. Is this better?
It's still garbled.
It's garbled.
Having a hard time hearing. Yeah,
All right. How about this? Is this better?
that's better.
Okay, good. So when you were in these meetings, and let me go back to the beginning. I said, just for our young listeners, what I'd like to know is when you're in these meetings and you know you are in the presence of these high achievers and decision makers,
Mm-hmm.
where do you draw your strength, your courage from, your confidence? Where does that come from?
That's an excellent question. You know, initially, I just didn't know what to do. I kind of stumbled through it, and I think the people luckily we went as a team. You always go as a team. One guy talks about this, one guy talks about that, and then I talk about my part. So that helps. That helps diffuse it because when we start talking about the project, I'm not first. Somebody else is 1st.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they talk about other things, and then, but in that time, when you're waiting to be up at bat, you know, you keep telling yourself, especially when I was younger, just calm down. You know, you can do it. You know what you did. You know what you designed. Just talk about your design. And I always talk to myself like that,
Uh-huh.
in like a semi panic, you know, internally. But then after, you know, it's just experience. Experience just helps you out.
Yeah.
You know, if you do more of them and more of them, like with anything, you know, you become good at it, and then you can articulate your position a lot better with all that experience behind you.
What is if you can describe for us your first major project?
I'm sorry,
Project.
my first major project.
Hmm.
Um, well, the I think for corporate clients, like when you go to I did a lot of electronic shows, and I still do, but they're all big shows and they're all big. But when you do the events, like for Canon in 2005, we did a large event at the Javits, and we took over the entire upstairs of the Javits. I think it was like 57,000 square feet, and I designed a huge 3-day event with every single thing Canon offers, up to their medical equipment. I mean, they do the technology for a lot of stuff you don't even know about,
Hmm.
not just cameras and copiers. So that actually won the best corporate event in the country in 2005. Um,
Congratulations.
thank you, and that was wonderful. And the funny thing was with that, it was 6 months of intensive work. Working with every single discipline that there is: lighting designers, sound designers, you name it. Working with the shop, doing construction documents, doing all that, handling all the meetings with the clients. Um, all that culminated to the big event. And when I left the show, I remember so clearly. I remember I walked out of the door and into the sunshine at the Javits on, I think, 12th Avenue or 11th Avenue. I was so I was so let down. Like I didn't know what to do next. This thing was my whole life for 6 months,
Hmm.
and here I am now, just walking away from it, and the feeling, this deflation, just hit me. I don't know why. It won an award, but I just felt so. For like 2 or 3 days, I didn't know what to do, and I guess I was just so intense with it for such a long period of time consistently that when it went away, I was I was in a little shock, I guess.
What was most rewarding about that particular project? Was it the fact that it got an award? Was it the journey? The work that you did on it, and seeing your being able to see your work afterwards. What gave you the most satisfaction about that project?
Well, it was this particular show. You don't usually get a chance to do a show this grand. I mean, 57,000 square feet. It's like an acre and a half. It's like 1.5 football fields. It's
Wow!
big.
Wow!
And then the ceiling in the Javits is very high, almost 30 feet. So you got to express a lot of sculptural elements high up in the air. And I did these, and Javits has these particular columns, these support columns. And around the columns, I did these huge illuminated umbrellas that were 75 feet in diameter. And sketching that on paper by hand and then going to 3D is one thing, but to see it actually being hoisted up into
Um,
position and then the lighting designers projecting on it, my goodness, that was just absolutely breathtaking.
wow! Wow!
And that kind of thing, watching it go from sketch, from just idea. There's
Yes.
nothing. You have nothing. You have an empty hall, and then you create this idea, and then 150 people jump in on it, and then start building it. And you're just your part is almost over because now everybody takes over, and you're just kind of managing and helping out and basically doing nothing, just kind of walking around the set and looking around.
But you come up with it. How where do you draw your inspiration from, though? How do you come up with these ideas?
Um, well, initially, starting out as a young designer, um, I, I was in a design company, and we designed exhibits back in the early '80s, and I was a model maker. I built models, so designers design stuff. I built the models, and then I just did as I was told. And life went on like that for a couple of years, and then I started getting the opportunity to design my own stuff. And what happened there was that I came out of college and I went right into somebody telling me what to do, not having a creative mind per se, starting coming out of college. So there was a transition period where I didn't have any ideas. You know, I would be, I guess maybe I was 25 maybe, and they would give me a job to do, and I kept doing the same thing over and over again because I had no ideas. And I was so stuck, you know, and I bought all these books on meditation and positive and all kinds of stuff. I tried I couldn't figure it out until one day, I don't know what happened, but I started. Maybe I read something. I'm not sure, but I realized, maybe I came to the realization. I don't. It's been so long that I I can't create anything if I don't have anything inside my head. So I started absorbing all the design work uh, globally that I could. I looked at every designer. I studied design. Every show that came on, I looked at all of the exhibits, all of the design work, and I kept saturating myself with so much information coming in that eventually I started having ideas. And I think I attribute that to just this universal design community that you have to tap into.
Uh-huh.
If you tap into it, you're not going to be good. You can't do it. There may be an anomaly, of, somewhere where he doesn't need to be saturated in visual stimulation in order to create good stuff. But I think most of us do, especially in the design world. You need to study everybody's work. You need to be intimate with graphics, photography, design, engineering. You need to soak up everything. Like, for instance, I would go to a mall with my wife, and I would start, and she thinks this is crazy. I'd start tapping on the materials, of the structures, and just to see what it's made of. And she thinks I look insane, going around tapping on stuff. Oh, I think this, you know. So I have a habit of doing things that are not very conventional. But for me, I just want to know what the stuff's made of, so that I could use it myself. Or if I see something that's a certain texture, wow, how did they make that? So it takes I think in order to be good, you need to be inquisitive. You need to really, and I guess that goes with
I like
any.
that, Mark. Repeat it.
I think you need to be inquisitive.
Inquisitive. I like that.
Be observational, inquisitive,
Hmm.
um, and you need to see something, and if you don't understand it, try to understand it, because it could help you in the long run as a
Talking
person.
about talking about that, Mark, I'll be remiss if I don't bring up your photography. What is it with you and photography, brother?
Well, with photography, you see, as a creative person, all my life, I use creativity in different ways. Like in the corporate world, you're kind of stuck with a corporate look and a corporate culture, even though there's a lot of stuff you can do in there. Um, but you need to balance that with pure creativity, and that's where my photography comes in, because with the corporate world, you have to answer to somebody. You have to be very clear on what you're presenting, because it's linked to a whole organization. With my photography, I do whatever I want. I can be as creative, as stupid, as silly, and just explore that whole other aspect of creativity that's just completely free and not tied to anything else. So I find that being in a corporate world and having my photography where I have to answer to no one is a great balance, because this photography world and this observational world helps this corporate world, to be a lot more innovative. I can be more innovative because I've freed myself on the other side, on the photography side, and just on the design side in general for myself, the things that I do on my own. It helps the corporate side be more um, I like spontaneous,
Hmm.
light. Um, yeah, I think that's what it does.
Well,
It's
what is your favorite time of day to shoot?
my favorite time of day. I love to get up really early because the sun is just rising, and there's just before the sun rises, there's kind of a glow that happens on things, and it's all about the way light hits things, right? The photography, and capturing that moment and bringing some emotion to it. So I think the morning, early morning, more so than the afternoon, because I'm an early riser. I like to get up early. So I think the morning sun, when that orange glow comes up and colors everything, is a beautiful time.
Mark, let's take a quick break.
I'm sorry.
Let's take a quick break.
Oh, okay, sure.